Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here for today's story because this one is unlike anything I've ever shared before. It's a story about the lengths a parent will go to for their child and the terrifying secrets that can hide behind a mask of kindness. Imagine looking into the eyes of a complete stranger you brought into your home, only to find a piece of your own forgotten past staring back at you. I thought I was saving my daughter from her crushing loneliness, but I ended up opening a door to a truth that should have stayed buried forever. When I finally pried open that rusted golden locket, the face inside didn't belong to the girl's mother. It was mine. But how could something like this even happen? What kind of secrets had been hidden in the shadows of my life for all these years? Before we dive into this chilling and emotional journey, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me keep bringing these stories to life for you. Now, settle in, grab a coffee, and let's get into the story of Sarah, her daughter Lily, and the stranger who changed everything. The silence in our house wasn't just a lack of noise. It was a heavy, suffocating blanket that seemed to grow thicker with every passing year. My daughter Lily was only 10 years old, but she carried the stillness of someone who had already seen too much of the world's coldness. Ever since my husband passed away in a tragic accident 3 years ago, Lily had retreated into a shell that I couldn't seem to crack. She didn't play, she didn't laugh, and most days she barely spoke. She would sit by the window of our secluded suburban home, staring at the driveway as if waiting for a ghost to return. I watched her from the kitchen doorway, my heart breaking into 1,000 tiny pieces every single day. I had tried everything. Therapy, expensive toys, trips to the beach, even a puppy that she barely acknowledged. Nothing worked. The doctors called it complicated grief, but to me it felt like my daughter was fading away right before my eyes, becoming as translucent as the morning mist. I was desperate. I was drowning in my own guilt, feeling like I wasn't enough to fill the void in her life. That was when I saw the post on a local community board. It wasn't an official adoption agency post, but rather a plea from a social worker I knew vaguely from my own time working in the school system. There was a girl, Maya, 14 years old, who had spent her entire life bouncing between foster homes. She was described as difficult to place because of her age and her intense, quiet nature. But the post mentioned something that caught my eye. Maya had a gift for art and a gentle soul that resonated with younger children. In a moment of pure, unfiltered desperation, I reached out. I told myself it wasn't just for Lily. It was for Maya, too. Two lonely souls under one roof might find a way to heal together. After months of paperwork, interviews, and home visits, the day finally came when Maya moved in. She arrived with nothing but a small, tattered backpack and a silver chain around her neck, tucked hidden beneath her collar. She was pale, with dark, watchful eyes that seemed to see right through my attempts at a welcoming smile. At first, the change was subtle. Maya didn't try to force herself into Lily's world. She simply existed near her. She would sit on the porch floor while Lily sat in her chair, sketching silently in a charcoal notebook. For weeks, they didn't exchange a word, but then I noticed the drawings. Maya wasn't drawing landscapes or flowers, she was drawing Lily. She captured the exact curve of Lily's sad smile, the way her hair fell over her eyes, and the tiny spark of life that was slowly beginning to return to her gaze. One rainy afternoon, I heard a sound that made me stop dead in my tracks. It was a giggle, a real, genuine giggle coming from Lily's room. I crept to the door and peered through the crack. Maya was showing Lily how to shade a drawing of a butterfly, and for the first time in 3 years, Lily looked present. She looked alive. My eyes filled with tears of relief. I felt like a hero. I had saved my daughter, and in the process, I felt like I was giving Maya the home she never had. However, as the weeks turned into months, a strange tension began to settle over the house. Maya was a model child, polite, helpful, and incredibly protective of Lily, but there was something about her that I couldn't quite put my finger on. She had habits that felt eerily familiar. The way she hummed a specific, mournful tune while doing the dishes. The way she folded her napkins into perfect little triangles. The way she tilted her head to the left when she was thinking. I brushed it off as coincidence. I told myself I was just projecting my own mannerisms onto her because I wanted her to feel like family. But then the nightmares started. Not Maya's nightmares, mine. I began dreaming of a cold, sterile room and a woman's voice whispering a name I hadn't heard in decades. I would wake up drenched in sweat, my heart hammering against my ribs with the inexplicable feeling that I was being watched. One evening, while Maya was in the shower and Lily was asleep, I found myself in Maya's room. I told myself I was just picking up her laundry, but deep down, I was looking for something. I was looking for a reason for the growing unease in my gut. On her nightstand lay the locket she always wore. She had taken it off for the first time since she arrived. It was an old piece, the gold plating wearing thin, shaped like a heart with intricate floral engravings. My hands trembled as I picked it up. It felt heavy, laden with a weight that had nothing to do with metal. With a shaking thumb, I fumbled with the tiny latch. It resisted at first, stuck with years of grime and rust, but finally it clicked open. I expected to see a photo of Maya's birth mother, perhaps a grainy image of a woman who looked like her. Instead, I felt the world tilt on its axis. Inside the locket was a tiny, hand-cut photograph. It was a picture of a young woman in her early 20s, sitting on a park bench, laughing. She was wearing a denim jacket I used to own. She had the same birthmark on her neck that I cover with makeup every morning. The face in the locket wasn't a stranger. It was me, but it wasn't a picture I had ever seen before. It was a photo of me from 20 years ago, a time in my life that I had spent the last 2 decades trying to forget. I sat on the edge of Maya's bed, the locket burning a hole in my palm. The room seemed to shrink around me. My mind raced back to my college years, to a summer of rebellion and a whirlwind romance that ended in a hazy, traumatic blur. I remembered the car accident that had left me in a coma for weeks. When I woke up, my parents told me that I had lost everything, my memories of that summer, the boy I loved, and the pregnancy they claimed had been terminated while I was unconscious to save my life. They told me it was a mercy. They told me I had a clean slate. I had believed them. I had spent 20 years building a life on a foundation of lies, never questioning the gaps in my memory, never wondering if the medical complications they spoke of were actually a cover for something much more sinister. I looked at the photo again. The background showed a specific fountain in a park 3 towns over, the very place where I had spent that forgotten summer. The sound of the shower stopping jolted me back to reality. I quickly snapped the locket shut and placed it back on the nightstand, my heart racing so fast I thought I might faint. I stumbled out of the room and locked myself in my own bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. The girl in my house, the stranger I had adopted to save my daughter, wasn't a stranger at all. She was the piece of me that had been stolen away before I even had the chance to hold her. The realization was a physical blow. Maya wasn't just a foster child, she was my firstborn, the daughter I was told never existed. But how did she find me? Did she know who I was? Was her presence in our home a beautiful miracle or a calculated act of revenge? I looked at my reflection in the mirror and realized I didn't even know who I was anymore. My entire identity as a mother, a widow, and a woman was built on a mountain of deception orchestrated by the people I trusted most. The following days were a blur of agonizing observation. I watched Maya with new eyes. I saw my own jawline in her profile. I saw my father's stubbornness in the way she set her chin. I saw the tragedy of a child who had grown up unloved, while I lived just a few miles away, unaware of her existence. The guilt was a living thing, clawing at my insides. I wanted to scream, to hold her, to beg for her forgiveness, but I was terrified. If I told her the truth, would she hate me? Would she think I had abandoned her on purpose? I began to investigate, digging through old boxes in my attic that I hadn't touched in years. I found my old journals from that era, many of them with pages ripped out. My parents had passed away years ago, taking their secrets to the grave. Or so I thought, but then tucked inside the lining of an old suitcase, I found a legal document. It was a private adoption agreement signed by my father, relinquishing a baby girl to a state-run facility under a false name. The date matched Maya's birthday perfectly. They hadn't terminated the pregnancy. They had waited until I was stable, taken my baby, and told me she was gone to protect my future. They had robbed me of my daughter and robbed her of a mother. The climax of my internal storm came on a Tuesday evening. Lily was at a sleepover, leaving just Maya and me in the house. The silence was back, but this time it was electric. Maya was sitting at the kitchen table, her locket resting against her collarbone. I couldn't take it anymore. The weight of the secret was crushing the air out of my lungs. I sat down across from her, my voice trembling as I asked her where she got the locket. She looked up, her dark eyes unreadable. She told me she had found it in a box of her belongings at her first foster home. She said she didn't know who the woman in the photo was, but she had always felt like the woman was watching over her. She said she used to talk to the photo when she was scared. She said she moved through the foster system with one goal: to find the place where that photo was taken. She told me how she had spent years researching that park, that fountain, and eventually the records of the girls who used to hang out there. She had tracked me down not with anger, but with a desperate, quiet hope. She hadn't known for sure if I was her mother until she walked through my front door and saw the same birthmark on my neck. She had been waiting for me to recognize her. She had been giving me a chance to see her. I broke down. I fell to my knees and told her everything: the accident, the coma, the lies my parents told me, and the 20 years of mourning a child I thought I had lost. I told her I never chose to leave her. I told her that if I had known, I would have searched the ends of the earth for her. The air in the kitchen felt thick with years of unspoken pain. Maya didn't move for a long time. I expected her to yell, to throw things, to walk out the door and never come back. But instead, she did something that shattered what was left of my heart. She reached out and took my hand. Her skin was warm, a living testament to a life that had persisted despite the cruelty of the world. She told me she wasn't angry at me. She said she had spent her whole life feeling like a ghost, wandering through other people's homes, never belonging anywhere. But when she saw how I looked at Lily, she knew that I was a mother who loved fiercely. She said she didn't want to ruin my life. She just wanted to know if the woman in the photo was as kind as she looked. We sat on that kitchen floor for hours, crying and talking, stitching together the jagged edges of our broken history. The stranger I had brought into my home to save my younger daughter had actually come back to save me. She had brought the truth with her, as painful as it was, and in doing so, she had finally silenced the ghosts that had been haunting my dreams. The months that followed weren't easy. There were legal battles to establish her parentage, countless hours of therapy for all of us, and the difficult task of explaining to Lily that the big sister she loved was actually her biological sister. But for the first time in my life, the house didn't feel silent. It felt full. I look at them now, sitting together in the garden. Lily is laughing, her face bright and full of color, while Maya patiently teaches her how to paint the sunset. Maya still wears the locket, but she's added a new photo to the other side, a picture of the three of us, taken on the day her adoption was made official in the eyes of the law. I realize that we spend so much of our lives running from the past, terrified of the secrets that might be lurking in the dark. We build walls to protect ourselves, not realizing that those very walls are what keep us lonely. My parents thought they were doing what was best for me by hiding the truth, but all they did was create a void that could only be filled by the very thing they took away. Sometimes the person you think you are saving is actually the one who was sent to rescue you. Love isn't always a straight line. Sometimes it's a circle, winding its way through years of pain and lies just to find its way back home. Life has a strange way of bringing us exactly what we need, even if it arrives in the form of a stranger with a locket and a face that looks just like ours. Thank you for listening to this story. It's a reminder that no matter how lost you feel, the truth has a way of finding the light. If this story touched your heart, please leave a comment below and tell me what you think. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.